We talked about how, the overall strategy from a U.S. perspective is to isolate China, get its economic, its military allies behind its economic umbrella. If you think about it effectively, that's also what we're looking at in terms of an exercise here from Chinese President Xi Jinping. He's gone from Vietnam to Malaysia and on to Cambodia. Let's get a sense right now of what's been done so far on the Malaysia front. And let's bring in Avril Hong, with us, in fact, from Putrajaya to talk us through what's at stake here. Avril, let's start with that for both leaders. Avril.
Yeah, there is a lot at stake for both Malaysia and China. It's really difficult, again, to overstate the importance of these visits. I mean, after Vietnam, you say Malaysia, and then next to Cambodia. No, this is only the second time in more than a decade that the Chinese leader has visited Malaysia, which is, of course, ASEAN chair this year. And it's also worth noting that, yes, Malaysia, second leg of the Southeast Asian tour, which is, of course, Chinese president's first overseas trip this year, that when we first got wind of the Southeast Asian visits was in late March. And back then, it was really more meant as a way to tout the clout of China in the region. But then we saw April 2nd, Liberation Day, tariff announcements. And since then, it's been important for the Chinese leader, I think, to kind of pivot the purpose of the trip, to convince Southeast Asian leaders not to cut deals with Washington at Beijing's expense. So it's really that, along with the idea that China is trying to promote itself as a more stable partner than the U.S. For Malaysia, again, stakes very high. It's seeing China as its largest trading partner, as it has been for more than 15 years now. Total value of trade between Malaysia and China has exceeded $100 billion just last year. And amid all this, it is trying to negotiate with the U.S. So analysts have already pointed out it has to sort of maintain this fine balancing act, being friendly towards Beijing, but not antagonize Trump at the same time. Now, just behind me is the complex, which also houses the official residence of Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, where the two leaders are going to be exchanging views later today. We're also expecting the exchanges of MOUs and remarks from the both sides. So a lot to keep watch on out of Malaysia today, specifically Putrajaya, the administrative capital.
And there is a clear sector that is sort of caught in the crosshairs, and that's the amount of money that Malaysia's been putting into building out its data centre infrastructure. Is that going to be one of the big talking points today, or what other sectors are going to be the focus?
Val, I think you hit the nail on the head, because these Chinese tech giants have really been plowing billions over the past couple of years into investing in Malaysia's data centers. And by some estimates, we also hear how tens of thousands of Chinese firms are using Chinese data centers. So it's really going to be, are we seeing these leaders from two sides and talking about potentially how these investments will be intact, or maybe even enhancing that? But don't forget, it's not just about data centers when it comes to tech. For Malaysia, it is also a really big player when it comes to lower-end semiconductors. So there's a lot that Malaysia can offer on the tech front. But today, the headlines about these critical minerals, a probe that the U.S. is announcing. China, at the same time, has been halting exports of rare earths. That is a mineral, an element that Malaysia has a lot of, but at the same time, it is still dependent on China to process these rare earths. So that's also another sector that could kind of come up in discussions potentially between the two leaders.